So when obsessed tennis players subscribe to my newsletter, they get taken to an optional form that asks them to describe their top problem in tennis because the aim of Tennis Files is to help you improve your tennis game. And I have extracted a few of these questions that I've received out of many hundreds, I think thousands at this point, for this episode. And today we're going to go through 12 of them. So I hope that they are helpful for you and help some facets of your tennis game. So the first question is from Antonio, a 4-0 player. And Antonio says, my net game is my worst part, especially playing doubles. I tend to stay at the baseline and can't support my partners. Thus, I have a very defensive game. Well, Antonio, what I can say, first of all, is you can succeed as primarily a baseliner in doubles. Consistency from the baseline, hitting deep, setting up your partner, hitting good lobs to play defense. These are all very important traits. And if you can get set up with a partner who is good at the net, then you can make a very lethal combination, a very tough combination. I mean, I personally do a lot of serving and staying back as opposed to serving and volleying. I mean, I have worked on my net game a lot, but, just goes to show that you can succeed doing this. I also remember interviewing Dennis Kudla and Francis Tiafoe at the City Open several years ago, and I noticed that they played a lot of up, one back, and they said in today's game, you can succeed from the baseline in doubles. So I just want to lay the foundations there to not feel pressurized in terms of thinking you have to go to the net every single point. I mean, I remember one time I was live streaming me playing doubles just for fun, and I saw some coaches say, "Oh, you got to get to the net. You've got to, you got to play real doubles." But obviously everyone has their viewpoints, but you can definitely succeed from the back, especially if you have a partner who's good at net. Or, in some instances, I remember playing doubles with a friend of mine, Diego, in the government league, and we were losing pretty badly, and we decided to both stay back. We've actually stayed 2 back on our service games as well as returns. And we just wanted to change something up. And we ended up winning, I think, like 5 games straight, and we won the match. And this was after getting pummeled for the first 5 games. So it goes to show that, again, I just want to give you some perspective there. But what I love doing is doing doubles drills with one person. And you heard that right. I was actually kind of shocked in a way when I had Jorge Capistani on my tennis summit, which I have every year in the springtime. And he said that I'm going to reveal, these doubles drills, and you only need one person to do them. And I didn't even think about that aspect of, I thought that, you drill singles with one partner and you drill doubles with your partner and 2 other people. But he came up with these awesome doubles drills where you just need one person. And I have utilized this to great effect and really I've improved my game with it. And what you do is you play half court. And, just to say, I find doubles drills with one person is a better environment to improve your doubles game because the environment is less pressurized than with 4 people. Because with 4 people, you invariably are going to end up playing doubles. And even if you try to work on stuff, it's still going to be in the context of doubles points. Whereas when you're with one person, you can play half court to simulate how doubles points are usually go, where you have like the net players and then the baseliners are trying to avoid the net players for the most part. And so you can practice your skills with one other person, your doubles skills, and a lot of volleying and so forth. So, I mean, one drill for you, Antonio, is to have you playing either cross court or down the line. You can do both versions, but you have one person feed the ball, and the feeder of the ball feeds it around half court, around like the service line, and then the player hitting it is hitting a transition shot, an approach shot rather, to get to the net. So that way, Antonio, you're going to get to practice your transition game to the net and then your net play. And then also, of course, if you are uncomfortable at the net, which it sounds like, then it means you're probably not spending enough time at the net hitting enough volleys. And so Practice staying up there at the net and playing against your partner who's hitting ground strokes at you, or you can also do volley to volley. So those are my tips for you, Antonio, to help your net game, but also to realize that you can be successful as primarily a baseliner in doubles. Question number 2, unknown, but a 4-0. We know that much because you fill out the forms, and I guess I had left the name optional. Whoops, but that's fine. Some people want to remain anonymous. So anonymous says that they're having trouble with consistency. One day my serve is working, the next my forehand is strong, but I can't serve as effectively. How do you manage to get consistency across your shots? So I would say for ground strokes, I have several tips for you as well as for the serve. But for ground strokes, first off, is to aim higher over the net. You get better net clearance this way. You take away a lot of net errors, of course. And then also focus a lot on getting into a balanced position with intense footwork. Footwork is the number one, thing for me. I find that whenever I'm being inconsistent, it's because I'm not in position, and that is a byproduct of not having good footwork, not being balanced and set to hit a solid ball. I also would like for you to pay attention to your racket face when you miss balls. If you're hitting them too long, then you want to close your racket face for more topspin. Try that out. Conversely, if you're hitting balls too short, then your racket face may be a bit too close for your stroke style. And also you'd want to then aim higher as well because you're probably hitting, a good enough amount of spin at that point. Or you may be hitting down on the ball. But regardless, pay attention to your racket face. And then for the serve toss consistency, we'll talk about that more in depth. So I'm going to leave that as a short explanation for now. Also, rhythm. I find that consistent servers usually have developed a very good rhythm because when you have a herky-jerky rhythm to your serve or, backswing or whatever it is, a motion, then you tend to have an erratic serve. So if you see people with hitches and whatnot, those sorts of things can cause issues with consistency on the serve. And then for both your serve and footwork, these tips work for them both. First off, work on mastering topspin. It brings the ball down and in the court. So, of course, as we mentioned, you're going to have to close your racket face a bit more potentially. That always helps you hit more topspin. And then for the serve, you want to make sure you stay more sideways when you're hitting your kick or topspin serve, because trust me, one of the biggest problems that I have had, and I just watched in a video, is trying to hit topspin or kick serves, but opening up too early. So staying sideways for your serve will give you the ability to hit these topspin / kick serves, and you get more height over the net. And also you can work on your slice as well. Mastering the spins will help give you more margin for error. And then also pick bigger targets on your ground strokes and your footwork both. If you're missing, wide, it's probably because you're going too close to the lines. So try that out. And then, of course, with the depth, maybe not go for the end of the baseline. But, of course, bigger targets in general helps a lot. So with consistency. So those are my tips there for you, Mr., Mrs., or whoever anonymous. And then question number 3 is, recovering from a long-term injury and regaining strength to play good tennis again. This is from Alfred 50. Reconstruct that sentence to a question format. And so my tips for you, Alfred, would be, first off, you must rest and make sure that you recover fully. That's always the prevailing advice. But it's just tough because people like to come back too early. They miss tennis. They're itching to play. But the number one thing that's helped me so much is seeing a physical therapist. I just saw one for a wrist issue and also a long-term foot issue, and the physical therapist helped immensely. I was going 2 times a week and then also getting exercises. They average to be about 7 to 8 exercises per issue. And so my physical therapist had put these exercises in the app, which is really cool. I was able to watch the video and look at the instructions and then check them off every day as I did them. And trust me, it helped a ton. And what these physical therapists do as well is they can identify imbalances and weaknesses and give you exercises to improve them. So again, it worked super well with me. You just have to stay consistent with these exercises. And also another thing you can do is find a racket fit expert. They can assess your strengths and weaknesses from a physical standpoint and also with a tennis specific background as well. So it's really up to you which direction you choose. And, racket fit experts, of course, they're not as prevalent as normal physical therapists. So if you can find one, that's awesome. But of course, do your research with the physical therapist and see, do they treat or have background in sports related issues? And so that is, big tip there. I highly recommend physical therapy because, for some issues, I've gone embarrassingly to say years with not seeing one. And then upon seeing one in 4 to 6 weeks, I experienced way less pain and more strength. So you can just save all the headaches and, don't be scared to go to one because they're amazing. Of course, make sure they have good reviews. And then again, don't come back too early because it's better to wait a few more weeks and then be fully healed than to come back a little early and re-injure yourself. So just wanted to reiterate that because then you'll be out even longer. And then, of course, you need to just keep your focus towards your recovery and maintenance. So keep doing your stretching and your foam rolling and your dynamic warm-ups, things like that. Don't ignore once you feel better. Don't ignore those things. And I would recommend to still continue doing those exercises from PT, but maybe in a lesser frequency. For example, my PT, once I had my wrist under control, she said that I could reduce those exercises from doing them every day to just doing them a couple times a week, ideally. Question number 4 is from unknown, but regarding the serve toss. So how can we improve our serve toss? I have some tips for you here, of course. First thing that I found that I was doing was flicking the wrist. So you don't want to, when you toss the ball up, flick the wrist. And, what happens there is, if you do that, then the ball is just going to go quickly up and all over the place. Instead, you want to lift the ball up. And I like this concept. You pretend like you're placing an item on the shelf. That's a very more slow and controlled type of toss. You also want to keep your arm relatively straight. The straighter it is, the more consistent it'll be. If you keep your elbow bent, then that promotes a lot of inconsistencies as well. And then slow down your tossing arm, because if you're kind of just lifting it up very quickly, then things will not go well for you there. Also, understand where to toss based on your serves. For example, if you are hitting a flat serve, you want to toss it more towards 1 o'clock and more out towards the court. Whereas if you're hitting a kick serve, for example, you want to toss it more in between, let's say 10 to 11, and also not as far up into the court as you would for a flat serve. So also an alternative toss technique, if you're having a lot of trouble with your toss consistency, you can also toss it to where your palm is actually facing the side. So if you're a righty, then your left palm is facing the right when you're lifting the ball up. Those of you on YouTube, maybe you can see what I'm talking about here. That's the side toss technique. And yeah, so those are my tips for the serve toss. Now, question number 5 from High, a 3.5 player, saying that they're having trouble with serve power. So this is a big one. I've been working on this quite a bit because throughout my juniors, my priority was to get the serve in and start the point and just out consistent my opponent, which probably is not a word there, but that's what I would do. So I developed these habits of just getting the ball in and thereby losing a lot of power. So I've been constantly videotaping, or I guess recording on my phone, my serve, and rewatching it and figuring out how can I address these power leaks. And I've also taken, lessons from great coaches, including Dr. Mark Kovacs, and seen, even additional serve power leaks that I have to work on. So some areas that will help with your serve power that you need to look for. First off, the most important phase of the serve is the loading phase, which is what Dr. Kovacs told me. So with the loading phase, you really want to work on your unit turn, which is your hips and your shoulder turn leads the movement, not the arms. And you want to ideally get at least 60% weight on the back foot. And getting more weight on your back foot correlates with a bigger, more powerful serve. And so a simple drill is to actually, well, it's simple to explain, but tough to do, is to stand on only your back leg and then serve. And it's actually amazing. Some of you will find that you will actually hit your serve with more power by only standing on your back leg. So for example, for righties, you would only be standing on your right leg, and then you would toss the ball up and serve. Also, with the toss, as I mentioned earlier a few minutes ago, you want to toss the ball more into the court. That will help you with your power creation. And then also one big power leak to look out for is opening up the wrist, aka the pancake sort of movement. And for me being a D1 college player and 5-0, well, this year I'm a 4-5, but playing 5-0, Mark, when he looked at my serve on video, he found, and I also had recognized previously, is that I was kind of flipping my wrist a bit. And so that's a big power leak. And Mark had said that, I get into a good trophy position, but then I lose a lot of power by doing kind of that wrist flip. So you want to look out for that. And then a huge one that that Rick Macy told me about was syncing the racket drop with the pushing up of the legs. This is a big one that I have also admittedly had a lot of trouble with, still working on. So as you push up with your legs, that should be synchronized with the start of the racket drop. And what you find with a lot of players is that they will drop the racket first, and then after they've dropped the racket, then they push off with the legs. So you want to, again, sync the timing of the racket drop to when you're pushing up off the ground with your legs. And if not, then you lose quite a bit of power as well. And then also a big tip is to lead with the elbow after you're in the trophy position, because most club level players will concentrate on hitting the ball, and by that, like, they're moving their arm first and letting that lead instead of having the elbow lead. So if you have seen some of online tennis instructions videos, which I really like, in particular Greg's videos and Nassim's videos, there's a drill that I think Greg talked about and Nassim did too, where you toss the ball and then you hit the ball with your elbow. So you practice that, and what that does is it makes you get used to leading with your elbow after you're in the trophy position. You toss the ball, and then you hit the ball with your elbow. So obviously you're not using your racket, or your racket can be in your hand, but your elbow is making contact with the ball. And then after you do several of those, then you can toss the ball up and work on leading with your elbow. And maybe you toss the ball up. I actually have been really enjoying this technique. You toss the ball up and then you delay a bit with your motion so that you just let the ball drop, but then that's taking the next step after the shadow swing. And I found that has actually helped me transition even easier to then hitting the ball. So I really like that one. Also, staying loose and relaxed really helps with the power generation. If you're tight, you will not be able to maximize your serve power at all. You're just going to be muscling the ball, and you're not going to be using your kinetic chain. And then once again, please film yourself. I have filmed thousands of small clips of my serve by now. Almost every session that I go out, I bring my phone, my tripod, which you can get one as cheap as like $15-20 from Amazon. That'll do the trick. And then a phone adapter so that you'll be able to attach your phone to the tripod via the adapter. And that's what I do. And then I can see, is my wrist breaking, or is it staying in the right positioning? Am I pushing off as I drop my racket? All these things. Yeah. And the toss, is that in the right place? And you can't really tell a lot of this stuff. You really cannot, unless you videotape yourself, record yourself. I think I had a viewer kind of chastise me for saying videotape yourself, because they say, oh, there's no more videotaping. I mean, I think you all understand what I mean, but I'll just try to say record with your phone from now on. Okay. All right. It was question number 6. So we have 6 more after this. Casper, a 5-0 player, said that they're having trouble with the mental game. They've had 4 losses in the match tie breaks. So I'm assuming perhaps it's USTA matches, but I guess they've lost the last 4 in match tie breaks, which are tough. With those, you have to get to a good start. If you get in a hole of like 5-1, 6-1, then a very low probability that you'll win. Of course, not impossible, but it's tough. But you just have to focus 1 point at a time. So I think the biggest tip I can give you, first off, is to have an in-between point routine to reset and refocus. The routine I like to follow is to play play with your strings, move them around a little bit, and then feel your feet on the ground, and then give yourself a positive affirmation, and then take a deep breath, and then think about what you want to do on the next upcoming point. Relatedly, you should Google the 16-second cure, which I'll link in the show notes. That's a great video to watch to formulate, your in-between point routine. And then also just have resilience when you make a mistake. Just try to realize that we're not perfect machines. Mistakes happen. As you know, over 70% of points end in errors from Craig O'Shaughnessy's stats. And there are many variables that can cause us to make mistakes, from, a very slightly minimally off, racket face. Maybe it's a tiny bit too closed, tiny bit too open. You're facing a really good shot. Maybe your footwork is a split second off, etc. Maybe your strings are a little bit too loose, a little bit too tight. So just remember, there's a lot of variables that cause mistakes, and a ton of mistakes are made. That's normal. And have resilience. And then one really good one, which I just heard from my 9-0 mixed doubles partner, Caitlin, great player. She forgets the score. She doesn't think about the score, especially when it gets to be really close. And I remember when we had won our match, but then we had our third doubles team lost theirs in a match tiebreak, which ended up giving the match to the other team. But, it's no problem at all. But I overheard her advising one of the players that just forget about the score. That's what she does. So I do really like that one, and I implemented that recently as well, and helped me focus on the task at hand, and did really well. Number 7, stamina and inconsistency. Sometimes it results in frustrations and pains, and how to ignore the criticism from your teammates during doubles. This is from Sabari, a 3.5 player. First off, let me get real here. Your teammates should be supporting you, not criticizing you. If they are, then honestly, they're a bunch of clowns. So I suggest you find new teammates if you can. And I also just suggest that you ask the old teammates to listen to this podcast. But with inconsistency, what I would advise you to do is to really intensify your footwork, and also to hit the big targets. I've mentioned on the show before that I find that, my inconsistency is usually related to my footwork and getting in position. So that is huge with consistency. And then hitting to big targets, hitting like deep down the middle, things like that. If you're playing singles, again, hard down the middle, that's really the best, biggest chance of not making an error. And with stamina, interval training using a work to rest ratio similar to tennis. So with Dr. Kovacs, he has written many great articles, scientific based, on tennis and among other things. And so he suggests, based on the work rest ratio, to train 1 to 3 to 1 to 5, a work to rest. So for example, if you sprint for 5 seconds, you then rest between 15 to 25 seconds, because obviously 5 times 3 is 15, 5 times 5 is 25. So you sprint 5 seconds and then you rest somewhere between 15 to 25. And also suggest that you find and follow a tennis-specific on-court training routine. That'll help you a lot. But also with stamina, just playing more tennis of the type of tennis you want to play. Like if you just play more singles or play more doubles, and your stamina will get better. All right. Question number 8 from Wilson, a 3.0 player. Wilson asks, how to create my own pace on my forehand strokes without committing errors. I can deflect fast-paced balls for a couple of shots, but when I get a dead ball, I guess maybe a floater, is what Wilson means. And I try to hit a hard shot back. I fail 4 out of 5 times. So first off, with technique, let's do a technical review here. You want to have your unit turn where you are turning your hips and shoulders. That's what leads the turn. And then you want to load your back leg. Then you want to let your hips and shoulders lead the uncoiling. You want to keep your arms loose as well. I find that when I'm too tight, I tend to miss in the net or long, especially on returns. And then also you want to make sure to step forward if you can, have your weight moving forward, or at the very least, if you're facing a tough shot, not going backwards. That's going to be like the worst case scenario, where unless you have enough height on the ball, you're going to, not hit it. You're going to hit it very shorter in the net. And then of course, without committing errors, once again, big targets, also work on your topspin generation. That's going to help you with reducing the number of errors on your shots. And I would also suggest that you perform a bunch of shadow swings at home regarding the techniques, the technical steps that I just talked about. And you can use a tool like the Topspin Pro or iCoach at home. I have a Topspin Pro, and it's been great for that. So there you go. Samuel, a 4.5 player, asks a question about his fitness. I'm a decent tennis player. I don't know for sure, but somewhere around 4.0 to 4.5. Yeah, that is definitely decent. It's very good, Samuel. And Samuel continues, I think I'm in good shape, but I struggle to maintain the level for over an hour. A few weeks ago, I played my first single 3-set match in 4 years, and after 2 hours, I finished exhausted. So again, interval training, Samuel, using that 1 to 3 to 1 to 5 work to rest ratio, and then find and follow a tennis-specific on-court training routine, as I talked about. So also, I would add that you want to improve your movement and efficiency of movement as well. That can make you tired if you're moving inefficiently. So I will link to my simple speed workout routine. That's a really good one to follow along with to help with your movement and stamina and speed. And then also, I would say work on your unilateral single leg exercises. And I have a simple leg workout routine for that as well. And that'll help you, because a lot of people neglect the strength aspect of tennis, and, power and speed and all that is predicated upon, and the foundation is your strength. So definitely do that. And then again, play more singles. Just play more singles and you will have better stamina there. Question number 10 from Kim, a 2.5 player. Kim said, I just started playing matches and I don't have any strategy. That's all right. That's fantastic that you're thinking about strategy at all, Kim, as a 2.5. So I would say, first off, at 2.5, consistency is king. So that should be your main goal, getting as many balls back as possible. And then also, at the same time, don't forget your technical development. So if you want to keep going up levels, there is a consistency element, but also keep working on your technique and developing more powerful and, longer follow through and things like that. So that is important. And then if you are able to execute this, the most simple strategy ever that still works even at 5.0 level is just hitting deep cross court balls. And then once you get a short ball that lands near or behind the service line, near or in front of the service line, at that point, then you can approach the net and look for a volley or an overhead. And for doubles, I would just add that you'd want to primarily volley at the net person when you get a volley, especially if they're close to the net, because then they'll have less time to react. So again, it kind of depends on the situation and the positioning, but I just think that's one thing, players aren't that great at volleying at this level, so the reaction time isn't that great. So if you can go to them, that's the best play, generally speaking, and it's a perfectly valid strategy. So don't feel bad about it. Question number 11 is from unknown, but a 5.0 player, allegedly. So we'll see. I don't know if we'll ever see, but anyways, the question is, footwork, especially volley footwork. When I need to position myself to hit a volley, I'm always late or don't position myself, which ends with me not doing anything at the net. And what I would say is, first off, again, record yourself playing and watch your footwork. Like I mentioned with the serve, record yourself is key. And then one of the biggest problems with or causes of hitting the ball late is the backswing on the volley. So a lot of players, they have too big of a backswing and they don't even realize it. So when I watch players, majority of the time, even me, I tend to do it here and there. It's just the backswing. So I have a compact backswing, and then also, and well, I'll just clarify. Of course, if the ball's floating and you have a lot of time, you don't need to have a compact backswing. You can have a bigger swing, but otherwise, you want to have a compact backswing. All right, and then kind of try to feel where you make contact. So when you make contact with your volley, is the contact point in front of you good, or is it too far behind you? Not good. That indicates you're hitting it late. And I imagine as a 5-0 player, you're split stepping on time, but ask yourself, are you split stepping at the right time? And then is your footwork on the volleys intense enough? Funny enough, I've noticed that the footwork on my forehand tends to be the best and most intense, whereas the footwork on some backhand volleys and backhand ground strokes is not as intense. So it's something that I have to be cognizant of. And also with the volley positioning, a really simple thing to think about is practice catching the ball with one hand in front of you. And if you just do that, and then then just put the racket in your hand and do the same thing, but obviously catching with the strings, then you're going to find that you'll be in the right position for your volleys, and that's going to take a lot of intense footwork, but you'll see the benefits. Number 12, the last question for today is from unknown, but a 3.5, allegedly again. But so the question is, how do I go to a 4.5 from a 3.5? So my structure for this goes into 3 steps. The first is self-assessment. The second is find the solution or solutions. And then 3 is consistent practice of the solution or solutions. So number 1, self-assessment. I had talked to Paul Anacone, and he mentioned that you've got to self-assess your game and construct points to get the most out of your strengths and put them against your opponent's weakness. So again, this is amplifying your strengths, and Paul really emphasized amplifying your strengths over, thinking and dwelling on your weaknesses. And so ask yourself, how are you winning your matches? Is there an area of your game that is losing you matches? And, evaluate those. And it's tough to give a specific answer for you, not knowing your game. But, for example, I could say work on your serve, because that's often the biggest ROI. But again, you should assess your own game, ask yourself these questions, and go from there. And then find the solution. To find the solution, you need to find a coach or trusted source of information. And what you can do there is, of course, figure out where are the best coaches in your area, and ask for referrals as well. And if you don't feel like there's suitable coaches, or you want to just kind of supplement or research online, of course, look for really good sources of coaching online. Obviously, we've got these tennis summits every single year. So there's that, and the podcast, as well as other coaches that you might resonate with online. And so pinpoint the first area of your game that we talked about in the self-assessment, and that will give you the biggest return on your investment, and find the solution to that issue through coach in person or online. And then number 3, consistent practice of the solution. Schedule time in your calendar. I like to use Google Calendar, but whatever works for you, whether it's an Apple app or maybe some other calendar app that you prefer. And then block time in your calendar. Make it the same days and times each week to build a routine/habit. Just automatically, okay, it's Tuesday at noon, I'm going to serve. I've actually been doing this where, unless I have a meeting during lunchtime, I'm going to practice serves, and I actually am. So it's been very helpful. And then, just remember, in certain cases, the improvements may not show up immediately. So just keep that in mind, and just focus on the process, not the results, and the results will come. So that is it. Those are the 12 questions that I picked out for our Q&A today for this episode. And I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you do, please leave a comment for me to check out. Also, just want to leave you with a quote. And this one is by E.M. Forster. And E.M. says, spoon feeding in the long run teaches us nothing but the shape of the spoon. So I really like that quote there. But thanks so much for checking this out. And again, leave a comment and a like or a review or whatnot if you enjoyed this one and found value from it. And we'll see you on the next one. Peace.